What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Casual's Garage. I'm Casual. This week we're working on our 1952 Super C. It's cold out here, if you can't tell, so we're going to minimize our time outside, but we're going to pull the carburetor off our Super C and get it in the shop so we can tear it down and clean it up. We still don't know if this tractor's free. I haven't tried to turn it since we found out it was stuck, but we're going to go ahead and get some of the other miscellaneous items out of the way before we worry about getting it unstuck, like the carburetor. So I'm gonna get you guys spun around. You can watch me take the carburetor off and we'll get it back inside the shop. All right, are these 9/16s? They're smaller. They are smaller. Cool. Do I have the right wrench out here? That's the next question. I do. They're 1/2 inch. Cool. And they're less stuck than the ones on the 50 were. Yay. I banged my hands up pretty good trying to get the ones off the 50. Although I'm not going to swear I don't need a stubby. Well, maybe not. Couldn't quite tell if I could get to that one or not. And let's see if we can get our fuel line pulled loose here. So I have seen / heard recommendations from others, primarily Pete over at Just a Few Acres Farm. Great channel. If you don't follow him, you should go watch his stuff. He does great work on old Farmall. But anyway, I've been told that it is a lot easier to deal with the choke and throttle linkages once you pull the carburetor loose from the tractor, so that's exactly what we're going to do. There we go. We're loose there. Now the next question is, well, I don't really care how you come loose as long as you come loose. Okay, and I can agree with Pete. This is going to be a lot easier. Because our choke linkage is hooked up here, and our throttle linkage is hooked to our governor rod over here. So let me grab some needle nose. Well, let's see about our choke linkage here. I'm glad that cotter key came out easy. Ow. Well. Well, I gotta have throttle shaft anyway, so we'll deal with that later, I suppose. Well, there's our carburetor. Yay, old tractors. I'm gonna have to, if I could get that cotter key to come out, I could pull that whole linkage off and take it to the shop. But that's a problem for not today because it is too cold out here. All right, so we're back in the shop. You saw in the last clip I snapped that ear right off this throttle shaft trying to get the finish nail out of the throttle shaft. Because when they put this together, they didn't use a cotter key. Not that it's a big deal, but whatever. Plan on this one. So actually, this is the first Zenith I've ever done. So plan on this one to tear it completely down, obviously. And then we're going to go back with 1/4 inch rubber lines and an inline filter, just like we did on the 50, just like we did on the Super C, or not on the Super C, on the 530. And I'm just going to see if I can get this hose slit here. We can maybe get it off, because it is hard as a rock. I even went and put a new blade on my knife for this. if anybody was curious what Napa heater hose does after sitting outside for 30 years and not being touched, this is it. Because that's exactly what this is Napa heater hose. There we go. That's trash. Something tells me that's how this whole thing's going to go. So, I've done a TSX that's similar to this, so I have an idea of what I'm after. So let's start with seeing if we can get our carburetor apart and into its two resultant halves. There we go. So we'll do the top end first, I suppose. So here's our Venturi. So we'll set it out of the way. And then we will pull out our float pin, which will let us pull our float, I think. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Float, needle, needle hanger. And then we can peel our gasket off here. We'll see if we can get our needle seat to move. That is nothing short of amazing, to be completely honest with you. Alright, I need an itty bitty screwdriver to get that jet out, which I'm assuming is an economizer type jet. And then we will see if we can get our throttle shaft loose. I do have a new throttle shaft on the way. They're available from McDonald Carb individually, and then you can probably also get them as part of like a complete kit. But like I said, you can get them individually. I already have the kit for this before I knew I was going to need the before I knew I was going to need the throttle shaft. So this is our butterfly. It smarts 030 and 18 degrees, and it sits in here something kind of sort of like this. Oops, not that way, the other way. It sits in there something kind of sort of like that. So we'll set it out of the way. We'll see if our idle adjustment will move. Okay, so there's half, 1, half, 2, half, 2, and just a touch over half. Is where that was set. So we'll pull that needle out, set it over there. Let's see, our throttle shaft should come straight out. Yeah, just tight. It comes straight out. Let's see. I even think this carburetor has bushings in it. But regardless, the throttle shaft felt tight. So I'm not too worried about that. I think that's a soft plug there. I'm not going to worry about that one right now. This upper gasket will get the Scotch-Brite treatment here in a minute. We've got one jet, an economizer jet right here, or that actually might be the main idle jet, I'm not sure. But we'll come back to that, and we will flip over to the bottom side of our carburetor. got, I think, a brass plug in the bottom of it. Or a vent screen, one of the two. I think it's a centered bronze, like a vent screen type thing. So our choke looks like it's going to be in like 2 pieces. So there's an itty bitty spring pin. I don't know if you guys can see that. There's an itty bitty spring pin right there. That looks like it'll drive out, and that should let us bring off this side of the choke. We take our butterfly off, and our choke rod should come out this way. We got a couple of plugs here. I'm assuming one of those is going to give us access to this tube. If not, it's hex, so we should be able to get it off. I'm going to have a smaller screwdriver for a couple of these. But let's see if we can get our plugs out right quick. Probably have the pipe taps out for some of these. Hey, cool, the dirt toppers have been in here. North Carolina red clay, everybody. North Carolina red clay. So there was a gasket there. Is there anything else in here? It looks like there's a jet. Yes, there is. There's a jet in here. That will need to come out. Okay. So screwdriver for that. I need a screwdriver for that. I'm guessing an itty bitty socket for that tube. A little spring pin punch. And I'm going to drive that out before we take the choke butterfly loose. So, okay, I'm back with more instruments of destruction and torture and, you know, all that good stuff. So we'll get this jet out. Okay, well, you're freed up now. How do I get you out of there? I screwed you back in. How do I get you out? Are you supposed to just fall out? So I think I got as much out of there as I can. Let's see, this idle jet, I guess it is. Is it going to come out? I am amazed at how much stuff has actually moved in both of these carburetors, being as they've both been together for at least 30 years. But I think that's got the top taken care of, other than the gasket. Yeah, I think that's got the top taken care of, other than the gasket. So I'm going to YouTube University a couple of things on the bottom here. And then probably have to heat some things up. So I will pick you guys back up probably at the torch. Okay, we're back. You can see I got that pilot tube or whatever out. I got the jet out of the back. Turns out all I had to do was bang it on the table a couple of times and it fell right out. So I was overthinking both of them. The pilot tube just screwed right out. I still can't get the choke shaft to move. So I'm going to heat it up. And then I'm going to let it cool for just a minute. Because it's decently cold in the shop. It won't take it long to cool off. I'm going to let it cool for like a minute. And then I'm going to hit it with deep creep. We're going to try it again. See if it moves. If not, I'll heat it up again. So on and so forth until it moves. Well, soot floating around from the acetylene. I'm sure that smoke's good for you. I'm gonna move and let that cool down for a little bit. Okay. So, the itty bitty spring pin, but it's out. Sorry, you guys didn't get to see that. I decided off camera I was going to tap it once and just see if it decided to move, and it slid right out on the very first tap. So, now that that's done, I guess we'll see if we can get our arm off here. We might have to drive it back through after we get our butterfly off. And on this one, it's marked with the Z for Zenith, and the Z goes towards the top, the bypass goes to the bottom. Get pulled out of there. We're not going to pull the bypass apart. There's not a whole lot of reason to, if I'm being completely honest. But I am going to use a screwdriver here. Oh, that's going to need something more substantial than a screwdriver. Okay. More substantial punch. Yep, there it goes. So there's our arm, our choke shaft, and I think that's bushings rather than a seal. But I have been known to be wrong. Yep, and what looks like a cork seal behind it. Here comes the heat, so I apologize if you can't hear me. Okay, there's that side out. And a whole bunch of junk. Okay, we'll try the same thing on the other side. There we go. And a whole bunch more junk. Cool. So with that, our Super C carburetor is split apart and ready to go. you guys saw, we're cleaned up. We're ready to go back together for on the Super C's carburetor. We got our gaskets all cleaned off. Yeah, so we're pretty much ready to go back together. I'm still waiting on the new throttle shaft, so as you can see, it got snapped. So I'm still waiting on the new throttle shaft. So we'll throw him out of the way for the moment, and we'll just ignore the throttle butterfly for the moment, but we can put the rest of the carburetor back together. So I guess we'll work on our bottom end here. Pour out our new kit. So here's our gasket, so we'll make sure it matches, which it do. Mostly anyway. It mostly matches. Yeah, it would match if I put it on the right side. Now it matches. Yeah, cool. So we're good there. There's our intake gasket. We're good there. I'm going to look at this exploded diagram because I think I missed a seal. So I got the 2 seals out of the choke, but I did not take the seals out of the throttle. So let's do that first before we do anything else. Now I think we're ready to go back together. Get rid of that. You go over there. So, assemble in reverse order. Typical instructions for a carburetor kit. Assemble in reverse order of disassembly. Cool. We can do that. Well, low-hanging fruit. Put our needle seat in. Or needle seat anyway. Alright, so we'll get our orifices started here. Okay. It's got most of that side done. So we'll set it off to the side for right now. We'll work on the bottom end. Because this side I know I can do. Are you the right gasket for that? Well, you feel like it. Seem like it anyway. It's an old needle. Don't need it. You seem like the right gasket. So in you go. That's the wrong side. Sure, jet holes are clear. They are. That is not the right gasket. What about one of these? Sure. That seems to work. Okay. We're tightened up there. Let's see. Orifice. Yeah, that went down the choke bore. And these get seated all the way. Alrighty. And then this one, which did have a gasket under it. do remember that. And that feels like the right one. That gasket's actually still in there. Let's get that out. Yep, time for the heat. There we go. One old gasket. One jet with a new gasket going in. Bigger screwdriver. Okay. There's that jet in. So we will Teflon up our plugs. Probably putting it on the wrong way. Given the chance, I will. And we'll tighten that one up. There we go. I think that gets all the stuff back in it. Let's see. Before I forget, let's put our idle needle in. Okay, so we'll seat him. We're good there. Now, our soft plug goes in this side. Right? Let's see. We go on the tracker that way. Throttle shaft is actuated from over here. Yeah. Okay. So our soft plug goes in from this side. There we go. So we'll get our choke seals put in here. Choke seals in. Choke goes back in from this direction. Work it through the seals. All right, pin you on there. Choke rod pulls that way. That seems right. Let's see if we can get our little bitty spring pin back in here. All right, so our Venturi goes like so, which means it goes in like that. And our gasket goes on like so. If I remember right, they go in like so. So make everything line up. Looks like it. Okay. So we take our float then. Yep. And we're ready to put our needle on it. So here's our needle. Where's my new hanger? We'll put our hanger on here. Slide our needle in. And set it down in here. And take our float pin. And slide it in. There we go. Make sure I got the float going the right direction. Yes, I do. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure it can only go one way. And on that note, we're going to close this carburetor up. We can hear a float down in there. There's a Venturi choke. Alrighty, so short of the throttle shaft that I'm still waiting on, we're back together. So while I'm waiting on the throttle shaft, I'm going to go ahead and mask off and tape off the intake, mask off our gasket. Oh, I can't put our fuel elbow back in. We'll do that right quick. And then I'm going to mask this stuff off and give this carburetor a coat of paint. 2 turns. So we'll back our jet out 2 turns and go from there. So there's half, 1, half, and 2. Alrighty. We're going to mask this stuff off. I'm going to give it a coat of paint. Alright guys, so it's been like 2 months since we touched this carburetor. We got busy finishing up the 530 and getting the 50 running. So I just haven't touched it because I was waiting on the throttle shaft to show up and it just got set on the corner of the bench. So we're going to get back to it now. We'll break our paint seal with our gasket. So it's been like 2 minutes for you guys and like 2 months for me. So one thing I do remember is I put the choke in the wrong way around. So I'll have to fix that. And I got to go back and look at footage because I didn't do that before I started recording. So I think we will address, well, let's set the float out of the way for the moment. And we'll set the Venturi out. And I'm just going to try and be careful to not tear that gasket. But as you guys can see, you're above me now. We're going to try this. Bought an arm to mount to my bench, and we'll see if we like it. If we don't, we'll do something different. If you guys remember, well, from the earlier part of the video, I guess, we broke the end of our throttle shaft when I took this carburetor off the tractor. And so rather than finding just this piece, it was just as easy to find the entire shaft from McDonald Carb. So I just got a new throttle shaft. And we'll just roll with that. And I believe goes on the tractor that way. Yeah, that's correct. So let's see. So our existing stop screw is the same length and it's backed out to just even with the end of the housing. So we'll put it where it was for right now. We'll slide our throttle shaft back in. We've got no play, which is good. And then we will set our butterfly in here. What I think is the correct direction. We'll find out. Like I said, it's been like 2 months since I've touched this. So we'll find out if this is correct or not. I think you guys can see. Yeah. I did get some fancier self-starting screwdrivers from Klein. I don't know if I've ever told you guys, but I grew up around electricians. My grandfather was an electrician as well as farmer. And so I'm a big fan of Klein tools. Sue me, I guess. I don't know. But screwdrivers and such, I will almost always look at Klein before I look anywhere else for a type of screwdriver. And I was actually wary of these self-starting screwdrivers to start with, but they work really, really well. We'll put that butterfly in, and then I'm going to take a different Klein screwdriver. You'll see me use a bunch of screwdrivers from Harbor Freight too. These just happen to be the ones I have handy. All right, so there is our throttle butterfly in. And then I know where we were, but we're not anywhere close to contacting the throttle stop if we leave it there, so I'm going to screw the throttle in at least until we touch the throttle stop for now. So right there. Oh, we'll start with that for right now. Okay. If I remember right, I set all of our jet, our idle adjustment before. Was it idle or main adjustment on this carburetor? I can't remember now. It's been too long. Regardless, I set our float heights, I think, and our jet before I messed with this last, or when I messed with this last. So we will put our float in and our venturi in, and that should have us finished with the top of the carburetor with the exception of the fuel system. So now I'm going to come back down in here and pop the choke butterfly back out. I think the choke shaft is correct. I think I've got the butterfly going the wrong direction. So what I had done wrong was I had the butterfly, it's supposed to sit like this. I had it sitting like this. Small, minor detail, but it would affect being able to actually turn the choke on. Or off, I think, in this case. So we will put our screws back in. Or rather chewed up screws at that. Even above me, I'm not sure if you guys can see exactly what I'm doing, but I have to kind of move around so I can see. Because otherwise, the phone's in the way. Okay, so that should be choke off there, which would push the choke rod, which would be pushing the choke rod all the way in and pulling it out. That's choke on. That seems correct to me. Alrighty, so with that, let's put our carburetor together the correct direction, like that, and we'll get our screws back in here. There we go. We'll tighten our carburetor up. I think this is the first clip I've filmed where I'm truly talking with my new microphone while I'm working. Up until this point, there's been 3 or 4 clips maybe where I had used my new microphone, but I hadn't really made it obvious. So you guys saw at the end of Reviving the 50 as well as a few other things that I was having microphone issues. In fact, the microphone issues caused me to completely miss the startup of the 50, which is still sad. I'm still sad about that. But I bought a new set of microphones, a good set from DJI instead of the cheap Amazon set I had before. So that's hopefully going to cure that problem for good with any luck. All right, so as I've mentioned before, I think in just about every video I've touched a fuel system, I do not have good luck with metal fuel lines. I don't know what it is about them. I just do not have good luck with metal fuel lines. For that reason, I would rather use rubber lines and change them potentially more often. And just be done with it. So we're going to go in with an 1/8 inch pipe, 2/4 inch barb, adapter, there we go. With that, our carburetor is back together. I'll throw this elbow in stock. I'm going to throw the fuel line that comes off of it in stock. I've got a new sediment bowl to put on it, to put on the C. Yeah, and we got a few other things. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this video up here. We got our 1948 Farmall C's carburetor rebuilt. It's ready to go back on. We're not going to put it back on just yet. I want to dive into getting this thing unstuck before I put the carburetor back on it. And I'm not 100% sure yet if that's going to involve having to pull the head or not. I'm hoping the ATF and acetone that has been in there for like 2 months is going to actually free it up. I'm still thinking it's probably a stuck valve in the head, so I'm hopeful I don't have to pull the head right this second, because I would like to. We're getting on closer. It's Easter Sunday right now. I started filming this video January 29th, and it's Easter Sunday right now, so it's been a couple months. We're getting on close to the Southeast Threshers reunion. I'd like to have this tractor running so it can at least go to the Threshers reunion before we actually tear into it. So hopefully I don't have to pull the head right now, but if I do, I do. Not that big a deal. So as you can see, the Farmall C is behind me in the shop now. We pushed it in here a couple of days ago. I've been doing some major cleanup in here. The Propane 60 has come in the shop. It is ready to have its head pulled and have a head gasket put on it. We're probably going to start that next week. More upcoming stuff. I'm going to look at a 1986 Chevy S10 next weekend. I need something cheaper to drive than my 2500, because diesel's almost $6 a gallon now. It doesn't run right now. I think it needs cam gears. It's got the 2.5 Iron Duke in it. So if I buy that, I'll probably put a couple of videos up on doing that as well. But like I said, we're going to wrap this up here. So next thing you see on the C is going to be sheet metal coming off and working on unsticking the engine, and possibly next week's video is going to be pulling the head on the Propane 60. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure where this is going to fall still. So thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys next week with another video, and like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube algorithm stuff. It does apparently help the channel. And thank you guys for watching again, and more later.